There's some Revelator songs that I'm like, man, we got to bring those back. But we've done so many songs and albums. There's like so much to choose from that I guess we don't think about it all the time.
We need to get you a really good slide player in Nashville, and you guys need to cover a Derek Trucks song.
You know, he told me Susan wrote the song, which he was proud of. He said that with great pride, you know, the way you say nice things about your family.
From the first note with Tedeschi Trucks, they just blow you away.
Yes, we will. I wouldn't argue with anyone that says that could be my favorite song on I Am the Moon.
He, signs my ticket, and I look over at Susan. I say, Susan, would you sign it too? And she goes, oh, heck yeah.
Kevin calls me and was like, hey, man, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. He was like, Derek wants to record some tuba stuff. I said, when do you want to do it? And he was like, let's do it Wednesday.
It was Midnight Harlem. And it caught our attention, man. And we started diving deep, and we're like, okay, we got to see these guys.
Sup? Welcome to the unofficial Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode number 150, and I am Adam Choit. To follow this show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram, and on YouTube, just search Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. If you're watching, you are already there, so please be sure to subscribe. I appreciate that. Subscribe to the show on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. That is definitely appreciated too. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Adam Choit if you'd like to. Positive reviews, 5-star reviews. There's 4 stars are the most, whatever the most is on Apple Podcasts. That's definitely appreciated too. TedeschiTrucksPodcast.com will get you to everything related to the show. AdamChoit.com for all my personal stuff and other projects. I wanted to do a separate recap for Sydney Night 2 because that was happening pretty much a few hours after the previous live stream I did, recapping the first 4 shows in Australia, but that was the last one. We had a second show in Sydney, and Guy was headed there. So, and we got him back to discuss it and talk about the second show, as well as Mary and Chris, a couple of Americans from Michigan who were overseas celebrating an anniversary. So let's bring them all in and get started with the conversation. What's up, guys?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
That's
morning.
right. That's right. Good morning. I'll let you guys tell everyone what time it is in Australia right now.
It's 7. What is it? 7.
It's a little after 7.
7
7
morning. Yeah.
I really appreciate this. Yeah, for sure.
Here in Adelaide, it's just a bit after 6:30.
Where are you?
Different time zone.
You are
Adelaide, which is South Australia, and it's a different time zone by half an hour from the East Coast.
Whoa. First of all, maybe this is my own ignorance, and I don't want to steer the conversation in a different direction than I want it to go. But what is that all about? I was not familiar that other countries have half-hour time zone increments or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of things are strange in Australia, and one of them is the very different time zones, and especially when it is daylight savings, which we just changed the night after the second Sydney show. Changed the clock back, but when we have daylight savings on, we have something like 5 or 6 different time zones because we have states that do have daylight savings, states that don't have it, and then we have 3 separate time zones with a half-hour difference. So it's half-hour from here to the West Coast, and then it's an hour and a half further if you get to Perth. So somehow South Australia decided, yeah, we need to be a little bit different, but 1 hour is too much, so half an hour is just right.
That's wild. Americans would be so confused if they had to deal with that regularly. We can't even find when when's the football game on, when's the basketball game on. That's kind of all we're trying to figure out, based on the time zone. So, Mary, Chris, thank you. Good to connect with you guys too. So, tell me about how you ended up at Tedeschi Trucks Band fans. How many shows you guys have seen, when you found them, and how you ended up in Australia.
Well, what happened was I've always liked a lot of crowd. We're both going to be 60 this year too, so it's kind of our 60th birthday celebration too. And I've always liked the classic rock and the Allman Brothers, Yes, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Pink Floyd, growing up. And then towards the 80s and stuff, I got into heavy metal and all that, but I've always still liked classic rock. And I, always loved the Allman Brothers. And then in 2010, I seen Susan at Experience Hendrix. I'm like, well, who's this girl at Experience Hendrix? Who, what is she? And I seen her, and I really didn't think, because the internet wasn't really booming yet, really. And then a couple years later, just a year or two later, I was, going down YouTube a little bit and watching some Allman Brothers stuff and just digging Derek Trucks, playing with no pick in that. And I put 2 and 2 together, and I found Midnight in Harlem on YouTube. And then, that was it. And I showed my wife, and she's like, oh my God, it's great. And we started going to shows together, and we've been to about 4 or 5 shows now. And we got tickets for coming back home in August. We got tickets on the 7th for Toledo Zoo, and then tickets on the 11th for the Michigan Amphitheater. So it's pretty cool, man.
What happened with Sydney is we were planning on going to Hawaii, Maui, actually, for our anniversary. And what happened was they announced the Tedeschi Trucks Show, and I said to Chris, you're not going to believe where they're going, because we're big followers of them. He goes, where? I said, Australia. Well, that night I went to bed because I could wake up real early for work, and he bought tickets for the concert, and here we are.
So we bought tickets for the night, and then we figured, okay, we got to start planning our trip. And then I came home from work. It was about 6 p.m. in Michigan time. She said, you're not going to believe this. They announced a second, like a second show. So we looked it up on Ticketmaster, and tickets were going on sale in like 45 minutes because of the time difference. So the second night I got to row F. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
That's
I love. They're so talented. Every single one of them are so awesome. And I think Susan's voice is just amazing. I just absolutely love her voice.
I like how when you guys are sort of making the plans to get the tickets, there's very little hesitation. There's very little conversation. There's very little debate, despite Australia being thousands and thousands of thousands of miles away. And you're not, it's not like you live in Los Angeles or on the coast. You're in the middle of that's like a journey, but you're like, oh, they're going to Australia. That's close enough to Hawaii or whatever. Close enough.
We're talking about Australia for a couple of years, but we're just scared of the travel, the visas, and all the, my wife's not a big bug spider fan. So we did, it was like too much for us to take on. But when we've seen the concert, that was kind of like, and the fire, the fire in Maui must have been the final, the like sign from above that we were supposed to go to Australia.
Right.
They're very nice people.
And as a matter of fact, I met Guy. Me and my wife on the first night, we went out to the show, and it's just like, wow, that dude will take a picture of me in front of the marquee. So I say, hey, buddy, will you take a picture of me in front of the marquee? And he did. We started talking, told me he got first row, and it was like awesome. And then the second night when we went, we were down on the main floor, or the stalls, I guess you call them. And after the show, I went and seen him because he showed us we've seen online that he had got guitar pick and some really great pictures.
So you guys, did you guys reconnect on the podcast, or did you speak to each other through the show? You're like, oh, is that when you got all connected like just moments ago? Were you like, oh, that's the guy who took the pictures, or were you guys already like?
No, we've been following Guy since that day.
Right.
Yeah, we've been connected on Facebook as well. And
right.
Thank you for reaching out. It's been awesome to be able to connect and to keep contact now. Because I'll be in the States and doing more shows, because the Tedeschi Trucks Band aren't coming to Australia very often, so I'll definitely have to come over, and it's just awesome to meet people from across the world through our joint love of this music.
Yeah, go on.
Guy, I'll make you an offer. If you want to fly to Michigan on August 7th for the August 7th show and the August 11th show, me and my wife will host you, drive to the show, feed you, and make you our guest.
Ooh, wow! All right, I can't say a full yes, but that is hugely tempting.
So there's the show is
on
August.
A big maybe, and I will follow up with you on that. Wow!
And on the 11th is in Michigan, so each venue is about 45 minutes from our house, and our house is actually about 10 minutes from Metropolitan Airport where you'd fly in at.
Nice. I love it. So many people connecting through the band and through even this podcast and all that. I wanted to ask you guys actually, because you mentioned you're going to Toledo also. And who was talking up Toledo? Someone was talking about the city, the venue, how it's a great spot to see TTB. Someone was specifically talking up Toledo. I don't know if you guys can speak to seeing the band there, if there's anything specific you're looking forward to as far as that.
I've never been I've never seen them in Toledo or nothing like that. But usually they'll go to Cleveland or Cincinnati. But Toledo is only about, it's only about 10 minutes across the Michigan border. And it's the zoo. It's this like little amphitheater in the zoo, kind of like the Hollywood Bowl. And it's this really quaint little place, man. And it's great for concerts.
We've never been there, so this will be our first.
Nice. Here's the do I got the right picture of the State Theater?
Yeah.
That's it.
It was awesome.
Isn't it just the most special venue? It's so ornate, but also they keep it so beautiful. And yeah, it's a very special place. And as soon as I saw that they're actually playing the State Theater this time, I thought that's the most perfect theater to see Tedeschi Trucks Band.
It is awesome. It was really awesome. That place is beautiful.
These are your pictures, Guy, I think. I think so. This is night 2, right, Guy?
Yeah, Guy had premium seats, man. Right front row, middle, pretty much. He was in the spot to be.
It was pretty special. I was with a friend. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us today, but I was with a friend who is a guitarist and a big fan of Derek. And he didn't get on to the pre-sale for the first show on time. And I said, "Don't worry, I got you for the second one." And I got on right the second the pre-sale started, and I got us front row seats for that one. And it was just absolutely special. We were sitting right in front of Derek's amp, that beautiful. And my friend, he's a bit of a gearhead and he knows all about it. So that amp is an Alessandro, I believe, and my friend, it was. I mean, the tone of that thing is absolutely monstrous, and to sit right in front of it, it's just mind blowing. It's just absolutely mind blowing. Yeah. I don't.
Look at this theater.
That's a bit more. Yeah, it's crazy.
Look at this place. Dan,
Just
you don't even
different details.
Wow, there's so many. You don't see anything like this in America. Like very rarely, I feel like. I don't know. David Flam here. John Davis was talking up Toledo. What's up? What's up, David? Yeah, beautiful details. Damn. I'm sure a lot of amazing acts have played at this theater over the years.
Because they get such equipment. Some bands have, Marshall stacks, walls of sound, and they've got like I said, like Fender twin reverb kind of amps, and it's just the sound is still incredible.
Yeah, we can get into the set list. I'm looking at the photos right now. Some really cool shots. We can get into all of that stuff. I got the set list from what is it? setlist.fm.org.com.
That's incomplete.
No repeats from the first night, of course.
Goes without saying. Here.
I was going to say, we were checking out the 3 shows they did in Tokyo and all the shows. I got to say, they got to probably have about 70, 80 songs in the can that they can pull from. And that's just incredible. I know Metallica did, their weekends where they played 2 different sets on a Friday and Sunday throughout. But for a band to do this on a concert tour forever is just amazing.
I feel like it's more than that. Like, I don't know. Maybe I consider like everything they've played like the last 5 years as part of their like catalog. And that's probably more than, who knows? Someone will count. Someone will comment. David Flam says he's a big Ulf and Guy fan. Me too. Fans. We got fans of fans. That's funny. I'll read out the set list for people who are just listening. Set 1 was Playing With My Emotions. Do I Look Worried? Little by Little. Emmeline, Anyhow, Yes We Will, Stand Back, and Idlewind to close out set 1. Set 2, Statesboro, I Am the Moon, Any Day, Caravan, second Caravan ever, Made Up Mind, Little Martha, Midnight in Harlem, I Pity the Fool to close out the set, and Walked On, Gilded Splinters for the encore. Is this accurate to your guys? It's not accurate. I heard.
On the second set, they played Part of Me.
They played Part of You. Okay.
I call it song.
Nice. That was that Caravan. Maybe it wasn't Part. Can't remember actually.
Yeah, my screen grab I got my screen grab here with the mouse hovering over stand back. That's why I have the preview. I can get it, pull up a clean photo in a second. But yeah, no, this is stellar. I'll let you guys have the floor and just talk about whatever you remember and whatever jumps out at you.
I remember so clearly the first two songs. Derek's playing was extra fierce, and they came out of the of the gate swinging, as you say, I know, in the US, but they were just fire. And Derek in particular, something about, I don't know, something about his solos at the start, it was absolutely it it felt a bit elevated, and I told my mate at the show, I swear they get better every time I see them, and it's not just from year to year. It feels like even from day to day they get better somehow. So yeah, I thought the start was stronger. Yeah, even more than when you kind of just look at the song names. There's something about the last show that it just started from a very strong place.
I think you get such it's a nice Derek moment, a couple of Derek moments on Playing With My Emotions and Do I Look Worried, because you're getting you probably got a big outro solo on Playing With My Emotions without the slide, and I don't think there's any slide up to this point on Playing With My Emotions until he gets into Do I Look Worried, and there's always some amount of anticipation in the crowd. When are we going to hear that first slide guitar note from Derek? So once you get it, and in such a powerful emotional song like Do I Look Worried, it's like, holy shit, we're only 2 songs into this and we've already heard Derek blow our minds on song 1, and now blow our minds again with the slide on set 2. And just knowing that you have couple hours to, most of the show is still to go is just super exciting. So I feel like, yeah, I could feel that energy, but I'll let the people who were there speak to it.
Well, watching this, he doesn't use a pick, and I think that's the most amazing thing. I mean, his finger is like playing the bass with his fingers and his hand. I mean, when he was strumming, his hand goes so fast, it's a blur. I mean, it looks like, I'm a novice guitar player, and every now and then I'll go and try to play without a pick, and I'm like, just clank, clank, clunk. And it's amazing what he can do with those 2 hands. I hope he has them insured with over in England with the insurance company.
I wonder what's involved with all that. Yeah, certainly got to keep the band healthy and together the best we can. Whatever we can do as fans to like protect this band and this music at all costs.
Careful when you shake his hand, I guess.
What are you saying, Mary?
I love how all the band members get their spotlight, and they are a very unselfish, band. They're just you could tell they love each other. You could just tell they're a big team and their effort, and I just love how they do that to each other. I just love it. It's one of my favorite things about the band, honestly. And Susan's voice just blows me away.
Yeah, and
Alicia's voice, they're all beautiful. They all have such good talent. I just can't believe their talent. And Elizabeth, oh my gosh, she blows me away.
We just want to see Mike smile more.
Yeah.
Mike never smiles so much when he's out there playing, it seems like. So if you're out there, Mike, we want to see a smile.
I think he's just concentrating, maybe.
I think he's smile at each other sometimes more than necessarily at the maybe Susan's the most engaged with the audience directly, probably of anyone on stage, but they all kind of do smile at each other. It's interesting because there's like just observing from afar, you see like some of the personality things that they have in common with each other, but also like some of the differences between each other. You have some of the more like stoic members of the band, like maybe like Derek and Brandon and Mike, and then you see like some of the people who are really like getting their body into it, and some of them can be found in the horn section, like Elizabeth, or even Kebby really gets into it from time to time and moves his body. And Susan is very emotional with her demonstrative gestures and playing and arms and fists and legs raising in the air. So there's such a. And then you got everything in between, really, with maybe a lot of the members that I haven't even named yet. But like, yeah, it's cool to see like that those dynamics play themselves out on stage, and and people speak to it week after week is cool because it is one of our favorite aspects of this band. And I always talk to me and David and other Flam and others have talked about how we don't even know where to look on the stage half the time because there's so many things happening, and maybe that is somewhat of an advantage to, like, you know, sitting further back and sitting in the balcony, besides getting the booming sound in a more centered way or whatever, is the fact that you can, like, sort of observe from afar. Where do you want to sit? Do you want to sit on the 50-yard line right on the field, or do you want to sit from above and see the as Bob Beatty described past guests, like the receiver breaking free and the dynamics on stage? So it's like you win as long as you're in the building and hearing the music, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I want to be front row every time, but that's not always
That's
possible.
good too. Yeah, that works. Not gonna complain about that.
We're hoping one day we'll get front
But
row.
it's funny, you're right, because, you know, we're up in the balcony for the first night, and you could see, like, Gabe's feet and everything. Because, you know, on the second night I couldn't even see Gabe's feet, but like when he's playing the Hammond B3 and he's got the Leslie organ going, I mean, he's doing the splits, working that Leslie pedal, and it's pretty cool to watch. You know, I mean, how many people are looking at the organ player's legs? You know, but I mean, the way he's playing both units and stuff, it's just really pretty good. Gabe's really great on the organ and the piano, and his voice is really good too. And like Mary says, it's just such a great team effort that everybody contributes.
Yeah.
And I certainly also take the physical demands of playing and performing and touring for granted. That is certainly for sure. Like, cause like, yeah, you know, Falcon is sometimes drenched in sweat after shows, and drumming is a very physical thing in itself as well. And as you said, Gabe is standing a lot of the time too, and Susan and Derek are standing the entire show, and as are some of the other musicians. Like, it's there's physical demands to it for sure. I get tired after playing a couple of songs, you know, in my apartment here.
Well, you know, it blows my mind is that people, like, I'm saying, oh, we're going to Australia to see TTB. Well, who are they? A lot of people don't know who they are, and I'm like, they're the best band there is right now, the best. They're so talented, and I don't know, you know, more people don't know about them. Like, great, it blows my mind.
It's kind of a catch-22. You know, we're kind of selfish. We don't want a lot of people to learn about them because then they're going to take our tickets. But again, you want as many people to hear them and experience them as possible because they are so good.
Yeah, that is the conversation that's happening more and more in our circles as the band just, like, gets bigger and more popular, and more people get exposed to them and realize and see how awesome they are. It's like, we want to keep this thing intimate and community and for each other and ourselves, and keep access and, you know, there to some degree, and prices somewhat reasonable to some degree.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want the band to be as happy as they can possibly be, and have as much success as they can be, and be heard by as many ears and seen by as many eyeballs. So it's like, you know, let's go along for the ride, I guess is all we're gonna do as fans.
It was like last year, they did the Chevy commercial in the States, you know, and it's like, oh, anyhow, for a Chevy commercial, it's like, oh no, that's gonna make him huge.
You got scared. Well, I keep talking about, or people are starting to bring up the idea of them being on SNL or doing the Super Bowl, or starting to do more stadiums. Like, they're doing, what are they doing? The stadium show with Chris Stapleton, I think, as part of his festival show or something like that.
Texas, I think, believe.
Well, in the States, it's got that premium seating going on now too, where it's like it's more expensive the more people that want it. Give you an example at Toledo. Right now in Toledo, you can get in the pit, which is general admission, in the first row A through L, $99 for a ticket plus ticket charge.
Wow.
But if you go to Michigan Lottery Amphitheater in Michigan to get like second or third row, it's $436 a ticket. So there's a big, you know, in the States, you know, tickets, they're getting really popular, and tickets are really starting to get expensive.
Yeah.
When I went to the Beacon a couple of years ago, it was I remember I paid, I don't know, I can't remember now, but probably $300, $400, $500 just to be maybe 10, 12 rows back at most. This is the most I could afford, and that was, I did that trip for my 40th birthday a couple of years ago, and it was absolutely amazing. But yeah, there was just no way to get closer than that. And I know the Beacon in particular is more popular and more special than others. But I really appreciated the fact that didn't have to pay all that to be upfront this time. But that's really great to hear that it's not like that everywhere, and you can still go to some places and get $100 and would get you in the front pit there. That's really good to hear.
Maybe if they start, as they continue to play bigger and bigger venues, maybe there's something to be said for tickets becoming more reasonable or prices going down, that the more seats become available. Or am I just not being realistic and just being hopeful?
It's the opposite. They go up.
Yeah, that's not how reality works.
No.
Yeah, well, it's in-demand tickets. So if there's a big demand for them, the price goes up, and then maybe after
economics.
Sometimes after the first month or so, there may be tickets left over. The price will go down. But it's America. It's all about the buck, man.
Well, here in Michigan, they play like at Meadowbrook a couple summers. We got to see them, and it's a smaller venue than Pine Knob, and they didn't even sell out at Meadowbrook, which blew me away. But that's where we got 4 rows from stage. That's the closest we've ever been, and I tell you what, it's amazing. And I want to get first row one day, but we will somehow.
Yeah. What about they played Caravan? I see at this show. Do you remember anything that it must have been special?
That was incredible.
Van Morrison.
I didn't know that song. I'm not a big Van Morrison fan, but I thought it sounded absolutely fantastic. My friend and I thought our guess was that it was a soul song. This is my friend, by the way.
I was
really
guessing.
liked that photo. I captured him watching the bands, and the light hit just the right time, so you could actually see his face, so or part of his face. But yeah, I quite like that one. And yeah, Caravan, we actually thought it was a soul song just because of the way that it's built and all that. But we thought it was sensational, very very much fun.
Oh, it's definitely a soul song, a Van Morrison soul song at that. Yeah, Susan takes it to the next level with, I'm sure, because I heard the version where she was. Where did they do that before? I'm losing my mind, but they did that not back in the States at one of their shows, and there was a recording of that. But yeah, just sounds like and looks like an amazing show from the set list. Looking at a picture of Gabe here.
I'm not positive, but it's kind of, I really dig the Layla stuff, and I don't think they played anything on either show from the Layla album. Usually they'll throw something in, a Bell Bottom Blues or a Why Does Love Gotta Be So Sad or something, but I don't think they played any Layla album on
True, I think in Melbourne we got Keep on Growing, but I think that was it. Yeah, you're right.
Interesting. Can't play it all.
And then the other thing that I think they didn't play at all in Australia was anything from Signs High Times, I don't believe, which I found surprising because the last time they were here was 2016 when they were touring behind Let Me Get By. So they haven't actually been here since that album was out. So I did know that they haven't. And again, like I said, I'll take anything and everything. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
They didn't play
some
Shame. They must have played something.
Songs.
I know they played Circles on that. The Circles on that? I think
Circles is from I'm the Moon, of course. Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. My bad.
These are awesome photos.
The album before that.
I'm sure they must have played some stuff from Signs in Australia, but
I think they didn't. Well, not in the 3 shows I've been to. I don't think. Maybe in Byron Bay, but I thought that was interesting. And then as we're going through the set list, the next one, Little by Little, there's a few things I wanted to mention on that one. First of all, we talk about the Tedeschi Trucks Band as a 12-piece band, but I love that how they actually play with the band itself throughout the set. So I mean, yes, a lot of the set you'll have all of them just in full power, but then you have this horn section goes off the stage, or sometimes it's just Gabe and Susan doing a song, and I love how they have all these different sort of types of bands sort of thing hidden within that band. And little by little, the horn section went out, so they did it as a straight blues sort of song, and that was really surprising because the Junior Wells version definitely has horns, and the other thing that song is big for is harmonica. So my friend and I, we used to play in a blues band together, and that was a song that we used to do, and also Statesboro Blues. So we actually had 2 songs that we used to play in our little band. But that was interesting because we had my instrument is harmonica, and these are sort of, and that's a classic sort of harp song, and that made us think that that's one instrument that they never ever feature. And
Yeah,
I bet you that there's five, or that half of them can pull out a harmonica and play decent enough, if not more, with all the talent there. But it's like they made a decision not to feature that instrument, which I thought was really interesting because I cannot remember them using harmonica.
I feel like maybe they had a guest one time that came on and played harmonica on something, or maybe it was just Susan and Derek at some other related show or event. But Susan did play a little bit of harmonica on "You Don't Know How It Feels," the Tom Petty cover. I think shortly after he had passed, she just kind of did the intro and some of those big parts. So that was cool. But yeah, you don't see a lot of harmonica at TTB shows. I totally forgot what I was going to say. I was going to say something else about the set list or something.
Hey, guy.
Oh, little by little. Oh, I was going to say one more thing about. Sorry, we'll get to you in a second, Chris. But I was going to say about little by little. I think maybe what they're doing is because Susan recorded it as part of her in her solo career. And I don't think there were horns on that, and I don't think there was harmonica in that. So I think maybe it's more or less they're doing it in the style of how she did it on her original recording, as more of like a Susan moment than bringing it up to a Tedeschi Trucks Band song, as doing it more of a throwback to a Susan Tedeschi solo career song. I don't know, just a theory on that. But what were you going to say, Chris?
Hey, Guy, before Little Martha, right before they got into Midnight in Harlem, I could have swore I heard a snippet of a Mountain Jam from the Allman Brothers.
I believe it.
I just think it was a little bit.
That little beginning snippet of Mountain Jam.
Sometimes I think
there was that a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's possible. This is a good question for Derek. Are teases sometimes not planned, and not only not planned, sometimes accidentally come out? Because there is some overlap between some of these keys and melodies, and they can be quite similar. So, like, yeah, he's played riffs from Jessica and all these Allman Brothers and Blue Sky a billion times. That maybe they just come out sometimes like accidentally. I feel like, but maybe not. I don't know.
I don't think there's any.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't think there's any access. I think that show is pretty well planned out beforehand. I think it's very tight for the most part.
Yeah. But you forget, maybe he loves these Allman Brothers songs so much and played all these licks so much. And if he happens to be in a key, it's like, boom, there comes out a Mountain Jam.
The actual intro, I think, is definitely thought out because in Melbourne, he didn't do Little Martha, he did Swamp Raga. And this one, he did, proper Little Martha sort of start to finish before Midnight in Harlem. But which I appreciated. Even that little thing, he kind of gave us that little bit of diversity. So yeah.
Yeah, we're getting more surprises in terms of like what some of these not teases, but I guess the parts of songs and that they splice together. The intros, like the Little Martha, doesn't always have to be the midnight on this like specific tour and just legs of tours and like tours this year. When they're playing Angel, it's not always sugary. When they're playing I Want More, it hasn't always been followed by the Beck's Bolero, what they've been doing mostly, but we've gotten a couple of Soul Sacrifices as well. So really it's like you get so many surprises, like newer and new fans who are maybe not as familiar with the music are still being surprised, but people who, like nutcases like me and you guys like are constantly surprised too, I'm sure, by whatever song's coming next at shows.
Well, I thought the second night in Sydney was a little more mainstream, I think, than the first night. I think the first night was a little more bluesy, but the second night seemed like a little more mainstream.
Maybe, yeah. I'm sure it was the crowd was on fire and everyone was into it, like going into the second set with Statesboro. That just energy, I'm sure, is always insane.
Actually, that was one of the weird things for us from the States.
You had a hard time with this.
I swear to God, when they started Midnight in Harlem, you could hear a pin drop. It was so quiet in that theater. Usually once they start those opening notes, everybody in America is yelling. You can't hear most of it because everybody's yelling and screaming and but that theater was so quiet in between songs. It was really, really kind of nice. change, kind of, Same with, standing in your seats and that. Even on the main floor, me and my wife wanted to get up and dance so many times. We're trying to be respectful of the people behind us. But for the encore, I told my wife, let's go. We're going to the front row. We're going to stand on by the wall. And she was a little scared. She don't like to break the rules. And I went down there, man, and I stood right by the speaker box. I wasn't in front of anybody, and I was right there for the Gilded Splinters, and it was just fantastic.
For the encore, everyone at the front were standing and dancing, thankfully. Because I mean that was definitely the hard thing, is to not get up and dance in a lot of it. But at the encore, I think yeah, so, we were that was enough of sitting. and I walk on Gillis Splinter. That was just party. That was just party atmosphere, and with the horns going, and that was just such a fantastic song.
You got an Any Day here. That's a Layla song.
Yeah, that's right. I was gonna say, yeah.
Such a good show. What's we got a minute before the next TTB show. I think they're doing like the Leonard. What are they doing? A Leonard Cohen tribute, and then the Miramar Beach Festival. So they're getting some time off. I wonder what they're up to now. Writing new songs, recording new songs, making new music, planning new shows, booking additional West Coast dates. No, I'm just kidding.
Planning their next Australian trip, I'm sure.
Right. What else jumps out at you? We don't have to go on for forever for this episode. Usually, I feel like I'm recapping 3, 2, 3, 4 shows and whatnot. But what else? What else you guys want to discuss? Emmeline is always a moment.
Well, like show, we're standing outside the venue, and people started coming out a little bit. We've seen the 2 horn players, and Alicia came out, and then and I guess there was a big after party. Derek and Susan had to hit a plane ride home, I guess, but my wife's seen it. I think it was on Facebook.
On Facebook,
and there was a big after party at the Red Wing or the Go Wings Hotel. Is it Go Wings?
Something like
that. Yeah,
that
was my friend Ben. We were slightly kicking. Me and my other friend were slightly kicking ourselves, so not staying around. So Ben, our other mate, also a great guitarist here in Sydney. Every now and a couple of times a year, he does Grateful Dead shows and all of that. So people should follow him. We'll give him that plug, of course, that he very well deserves. And he travels a lot to see music. I know I should have stayed, because he always knows people who knows people, and got to party. But we were just so buzzing after the show, and we went to just kind of grab dinner, and start to kind of talk it all out, I guess, and talk about it. But yeah, it was just magic.
See, and the first night when the show got out, it was like raining cats and dogs, man. It was like, so nobody was looking, everybody's trying to get out of the rain. So I don't think anybody was looking for autographs or looking for, it's a little funny story, actually. We met a couple in Sydney, Scott and Sonia, and our hotel. We're in the pool, and they said, well, we're going to the TDB show tonight. I said, well, we are too. And they flew in from like past Brisbane. So we're hanging with them and stuff. And when we were outside, he had got a poster, and I bought my poster the night before. Well, he had his poster, and he got a pen, and he got Derek's signature, and he got a couple other signatures. So then we're on Bondi Beach the next day, and he calls us at the beach, says, hey, I left my poster at the express checkout. Can you check it for me? And we're already at Bondi Beach. So luckily the hotel grabbed it for him, and they sent it to him. But it's like, it's kind of like The Godfather. Leave the body, take the cannoli. Can't believe that he'd forget his poster. I'd probably forget my wife before I forgot my signed Derek Trucks poster.
She might be the same way, though, with the poster. It's funny to hear you say, like, oh, the weather was bad and this and that. But I think I've seen and heard stories of, like, and seen all this stuff, like Derek and Susan taking the time, not just to say hello to fans and sign things and take pictures and all this stuff, but do it in bad weather, like in not ideal conditions, when they're in a rush or when the weather is not great, but still taking the time to make time for fans, like just story after story, anecdote after anecdote from fans echoing these sentiments about how nice they are and how generous they are with their time. So it's cool to hear more of that.
Well, the trumpet player came out, and he was standing there. And I went over and started talking to him. Told him we came from Michigan. He was so nice and so gracious, and just took a picture with me, and says, "Oh, happy anniversary." He was so nice, and Alicia too. I didn't get a picture with her, but I talked to her for a couple minutes, and she was so sweet to me. Very, very nice.
And the thing is, they just done 3 hours, or with warm up and all that, and then like I say, after work, how many people after work want to sit around and talk with people about work, and with them, it's just they take their time. They really care about their fans, I believe, and it's really quite refreshing, I would say,
And Derek was so sweet. I ran up to him right before, the security was trying to get him out. And I just said, I just got to tell you, I just love your band. You're awesome. We came from Michigan. It was so awesome to see you. And he gave me a hug. I thought that was very sweet of him.
That is, I guess those kinds of authentic, genuine compliments that are just in and out, like that can't get old. That can't get old to anyone. I mean, that must always feel good. And just like, maybe it even like keeps them going a little bit. Obviously there's financial incentives and they love the music and this and that, but sometimes I'm sure the travel and the stress and managing, I'm sure they all have egos. They're great people, as we all believe,
hey,
but
the plane flight is 14 hours, no matter who you are.
Right. You feel trapped.
Any comfortable.
Yes.
I also had that sort of a moment with Derek. Not this time. It was back in 2019 when I saw them in DC. And after the show, it was JMO's band were playing in a club across the road, and basically all of Tedeschi Trucks Band were there, either sitting around the table or joining him on stage. And also, I just kind of went past Derek in the venue, and I didn't want to harass him or anything, and I'm very much conscious of he's just after a long work day, etc., etc. So I also just said very quickly, I'm from Australia, and I just love your band, and thank you for the music and all that. And he just seemed so, like a genuinely nice guy, and genuinely appreciative of it. And I never heard a bad story about it, and I can't understand it. I think if I had, so many, if I try to put myself in those sorts of shoes, you really need to consciously be on your game in terms of I don't know, I mean, I never heard anyone have a bad interaction with them, and they and I'm sure they have bad days. I'm sure they have days that they don't really want to chat to a bunch of random people with long hair like us and whatever that just want to talk music and whatever. But I just never heard of them not being anything but the most gracious and welcoming and loving, and you get that. That's exactly the vibe that you get when you look at this band on stage. And I know we talked about it last time, and I'm sure you talk about it basically every episode, Adam, and I'm sure that that's part of the energy that sustains your love for the band and all of our love for the band. But yeah, I feel like we can't talk enough about what a wonderful human beings they are, and just the positive energy that they put out there is so plain to see, and is so much needed by all of us, I feel.
I don't share. I was gonna say that's so well said. I don't share every single thing from every single conversation I have about and related to this band offline. But even private conversations offline, no one's ever said anything had a negative thing to say about Susan or Derek.
He was an asshole, and he did.
Personal reaction. He sneered at me. She wouldn't look, avoid, and nothing. There is nothing like that at all from them. Which is amazing. It takes a lot of patience to deal with fans, because I was gonna say y'all, but I guess I can say some of us are a little bit, eccentric, or we're just passionate. We love the band, and we want to just be as polite as possible, of course, but want to be as close to the band as possible as well, in whatever terms that really means. That could really, I don't even really think in terms of what that means, but just to be around the band as much as possible and around their music is just something we all just appreciate.
Well, it didn't happen in Sydney because there was no warm-up bands, but every time you see them with a warm-up band, they always at the end they bring the warm-up band out, and sometimes Derek will even play the last song with the warm-up band.
Often.
And both their warm-up bands, and they bring them out on stage, and it's really great, because those younger bands, or even the older bands that maybe might be a little older than them, they bring them out there and they really support the warm-up band, and I think it's really great. And sometimes you get a really good song, You know, if they're out there with that warm up band or whatever it may be. I seen Derek Los Lobos opened up for them, and Derek came out and played a set with Los Lobos, and it was just great.
Everything about this band is like there's almost like a sustaining element to it as far as like propelling you to more longevity as a fan. Like just because, as you said, we've been talking about the kind of people they are in the community and all that stuff, but they also introduce you to so much new music or push you to listen to new music and introduce you to new bands that are old or new bands that are young and all that. And even like something back to a thought that I had probably about like 40 minutes ago when Guy was talking about the different lineups within the lineups, the different band structures. You got 4 people, 5 people, 6 people. Even that in itself is like an element that keeps things interesting and fresh. You're seeing one band, Tedeschi Trucks Band, but in some ways you're probably seeing 7 or 8 different bands in one night at every show, at least. Right. Something like that. I love it.
I just love the band. I really have fallen in love with them. And so many people are like, who are they? Who are they? And I'm like, you got to check them out. And I just, get people to show them. I got someone at my work, one of my vendors comes in and I told him about it. And he came up to me because, he comes in once a month. He came in, he said, I'm going to go see them in Sterling Heights. I started watching their music on YouTube. They're awesome. I'm like, yeah, they are.
And I'd also like to take a minute here to thank you, Adam, for what you do. I mean, you're really bringing TDB to a lot of people and getting kind of an inside track, getting some little bits like your interviews and stuff. It's really cool, man, that it's kind of spreading the good fortune to everybody.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's been like a joy for me to connect with so many people. And I didn't really know what this podcast would be or become, and things are still evolving as things continue. But the recaps and talking to fans has definitely been something super, super special. And like, it's not something I really even thought about or set out to do, but like, it's been a joy just to connect with so many people.
We went down the wormhole of your broadcast, because we just found out about you while we're in Sydney. So we're sitting in our hotel, and it was awesome, man. All the stuff was awesome.
Really,
looking for concerts recaps, maybe from something that we went to earlier in a year ago or something.
Nice.
So
yeah,
you do a great job.
Thank you.
Hopefully one day it will be the official TDB podcast.
Right. No, yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the support as well. I forgot what the hell was I gonna say. You got something, Guy? What are you gonna?
I have one that, of course, absolutely to join Chris in what he just said, and I'm only starting to get into the wormhole, but I have I just downloaded some episodes to my phone, and I can't wait to get stuck into it. I have a flight back this afternoon, and you're going to be featured in it, Adam.
Oh, thank you.
I do have one short thing, a short story going back 13 years now, which I didn't mention last time. And it's when Tedeschi Trucks Band came to Australia back in 2010 or 2011 for the first time. I was very excited. I bought a ticket. I was sort of, I was a student at the time. I didn't have much, and couldn't go to a lot of concerts and all of that. But then I had a sort of an overseas trip and all of that, and which unfortunately meant that I couldn't go to the show. And I could not get rid of the ticket. Like it was not sold out. People didn't know who they were at the time. And I tried to offer it to friends. No one really knew who they were. It was physical tickets. It was before it was all electronic as well. So I decided to take the ticket, and it was a few days before the show. I was gonna go on my way to the airport. Couldn't get rid of the ticket, so I took the ticket, and I wrote a note. If you find this, please go to this concert. And I stuck it between 2 seats on the train, and I still wonder if anyone found that ticket and decided to go and check out that concert. Because I know that if I came across a concert ticket that had a note like that, and I'm like, oh, this is an actual concert ticket, I'm going to go to that concert. And I still wish to think that someone found that ticket and decided to go to that concert. But if you are out there listening and in 2011 you found the concert ticket for Tedeschi Trucks Band on the train in Sydney with a note and you decided to go, please reach out because I would love to hear that.
Missed
But I
connections.
have no idea what happened to it.
Well, what I was gonna say was maybe you didn't think of it at the time. You could have put contact info on the ticket. I would have been like, reach out and give me email me here and give me a 10-paragraph review.
I think I must have put my email on the notes. I think I did.
Junk email or something. Yeah. What I was going to say was before, because you guys were all showering me with kind words and compliments, which are greatly appreciated. But in a lot of ways, I do these recaps of these shows purely for selfish reasons and just for me, just because I can't be at all these shows and I want to be at all these shows. And I feel like I don't want to miss out on anything and I want to be part of everything. So from that standpoint, I'm thankful to you guys for making me feel like I was at all these shows. I really genuinely do mean that when I say, like, I feel like I was at Ryman, I was at Chicago when it rained and they played Rainy Day, and I was at Red Rocks when it rained and they played I don't know. I just remember all these details, whether it's the weather or the venue or where people ate and drank or the people who met at shows. Like, it makes me feel like just part of things. And I know all the songs for the most part, more than for the most part. So it's like, whether there's audio or video or not, I can be there in my mind and soul and heart and spirit and all that stuff.
We listen to them all the time. I mean, honestly, I didn't know who they were probably 5-6 years ago, and now I'm totally hooked on them, and I love them, and I think they're just such a great band. Oh, everyone's all talented.
Yeah, I forget who I was talking to. I mean, I've had this conversation multiple times about, like, a lot of the bands and music that I like growing up, people just were not in their prime. Like, if I like, like Jimi Hendrix was either not even alive or, and they're all, whether it's Allman Brothers or just other acts, even from the 70s or 80s, just a lot of classic rock bands and music. Like, I was not around for the Stones prime or anything like that. So it's such like a blessing for me to be following a band literally in their prime, in their, and not even, in their, and what I called right now specifically of TTB is sort of a golden age, golden era of TTB, where I feel like it, for the first time in, for at least a couple of years now, the lineup seems to have been pretty set in stone. There's through no fault of their own, like there was some fluctuating in the lineup, like over the, the last, whatever period of time, but more recently now, and it's like, they're just like in groove.
I call them magical. That's what I told my husband the other night. They're just a magical team, a magical band. They're just so magical. When they get on stage, they blow you away.
They're so magical that, like, I'm offended by, like, the fact that, like, magic is called magic. Like, someone who's like wears a top hat and, like, whatever, makes the illusionist and all these kinds of things. I'm like, no, you're not magic. Go see this band. That's real magic.
Well, that's the thing with really great bands. They make it look so easy. And I know it's not, but up there on stage, I mean, they make it look so easy, like they're,
effortless.
And it's great watching, the interaction between Susan and Derek, the little snickers, the little grimaces, maybe if she hits a bad note, he'll give a little snicker or something like that, and it's fun to watch the human element, I guess you'd call it, and interacting in that. It's just, again, like, I always believe that you got to listen to music loud, because if it's loud enough, it can penetrate your soul and it gets inside of you, and it's just not your ears, you're hearing it through your soul. And I really feel it with that band. It really, it's not just your ears that are hearing it, it's your soul that's hearing it. It kind of penetrates you. And it sounds like something I can't really describe.
Yeah,
So
I think
I think you described it well.
Yeah, definitely. I think even like the dynamics between the members on stage, even that is something I feel like maybe you guys can speak to, as if you guys have been to a million different bands and shows. It's like that dynamic between all these members is like, I think that's something that's also pretty unique and special to this band. You don't get that, like, for example, with like a solo artist, like who's like maybe a big star, just like it just feels like sometimes you're watching them and everyone else is just other musicians. There's not like an interaction between the lead singer or the front person and necessarily the musicians who are not the pop star or the celebrity, whatever it is. But with this band, it's like like you guys are saying, like the dynamics and watching the smiles between them and how they push each other musically, that is part of the show. Like that's not, you don't get that with other bands. Yeah, I mean, maybe Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, they'll all these years later, they'll throw a couple of looks at each other. But some of these lead singers and guitar players, from what I understand, don't always get along, but yet touring continues. And you could kind of feel not tension between musicians on stage, but you can appreciate how much Susan and Derek appreciate each other both personally and musically, and that shines through on stage. And I think that's a unique thing with all the members in this band. And this band is
love each other. That they're generally really they love each other. You can tell that they have a good relationship with other band members. I think that's pretty impressive.
You know, like Susan, you know, Susan must have did 4 or 5 solos on second night in Sydney. You know, it's like, you know, you think in a regular band, you know, why would anybody want to have the solo besides Derek? But she gets down on some of those solos and she's just plucking it out, and it sounds great. You know, she does almost all the wah pedal. You know, if there's a song with a wah pedal in it, it's Susan playing it.
I love her with the wah wah pedal. No, I keep saying it's somewhat of a brave thing for her to play guitar and lots of guitar and lead guitar and solos on stage with Derek Trucks, because he's Derek Trucks, and she hasn't even been playing a lot of lead guitar. I mean, relatively speaking, like I remember hearing her on an interview saying she only kind of picked up playing guitar, I think, maybe more lead guitar stuff when she was like college age. So like for someone who didn't even really play, you know, in that style, in that way until later into her adulthood, it's just like it takes an element of bravery. Jay wants to know if you guys have any highlights from favorites, moments from the weekend, anything else you guys didn't mention or whatever the case may be. We covered a lot, I think.
I mean, obviously it's all a big favorite, but I think for me in the second Sydney show, I Pity the Fool, closing the second set was particularly strong, and it felt like Susan was letting loose more than usual. She kind of went much more for screams than she normally does, and I figured that it's because she knows that she has, you know, a few weeks off now, but yeah, she needs to be very conscious when touring about protecting her voice, because she can get carried away and all that, and I'm sure that can strain her voice, and it felt like she let much more loose in the end of that second show. And I Pity the Fool, if there is a recording of that from the second show of Sydney, for me that was a highlight, I think, for sure.
Me too. That's what I thought. The same thing you just said, Guy. Yep.
It helps to have Gabe and Mike and Mark and Alicia in the band as well. I think that's maybe the main thing that helps her sustain her voice and energy and all that, and sustains the band. Everything about this band is such like I don't know, just at least from afar, it seems it's a sustainable ecosystem in a lot of ways. At least, I mean, I'm comfortable saying that because they've been around for 14 plus years now. So like, I'm going to assume that it's continuing to be sustainable, you know.
We've seen them 5 times, and every single time they've been dead nut on, man. On. I mean, no cracks in the voice. They really manage it well. And they play a lot of shows in a week. You know, a lot of bands will play 2 shows a week or something. And they play they don't have a lot of break days, usually when they're going for a full U.S. tour. And the way they come out and the way they play and the emotion and the energy, it's really awesome.
They were playing. I was gonna say they were playing in the States within this first quarter of the year. They do like 3 and 4 nights, 4 and 5 nights, 5 and 7 nights, and with like very, very minimal repeats, which is impressive. What were you gonna say, Mary?
This is the first time we get to see them back to back 2 nights in a row. And we always wanted to, and to see how different, and their shows are completely different. It's pretty amazing too. You go to some bands, they play the same songs every night. And not saying it's not good, but to see him play different shows is pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's not too many bands like that out there.
No.
Well, they really manage their set list, because like in the States, like if you see them in 2020 and they don't play Midnight in Harlem, that's probably because they either played it the last time they were in town or they played it the night before, maybe in Cleveland or something. So, you know, I mean, sometimes, but usually, you know, you're going to see the songs if you go see them, because you're not going to probably see the same set list that you seen last year.
Yep. No, they take that into, from what I understand, take that into consideration, what was played in that previous city, that previous year, and that a lot of that is, Derek, taking that into consideration as he and the band craft the set lists.
And that's
Good
what makes
stuff.
it. Oh.
Mm-hmm. What else? Anything else? I'll let you guys go momentarily. I think we covered it all. Thank you again for the time. Keep me posted with those shows. If you guys want, like, any of you, just and everyone listening, continue to like reach out and message me when you're going to shows, so I'll just jot down notes, recap here, and we'll figure out the dates and times. I feel like it's good I'll recap a bunch if I can on like the band's day off or something like that. But if I can do it like a day or two after the final show of whatever time period that is, because then I can maybe listen to them. Give me a minute, a day, or whatever for shows are taped to come out. But we'll work, and me and the Swamp family people we can work on those dates and things. But thank you again, guys. Anything else you guys want to mention or talk about?
We're going to see him August at Toledo in Michigan, so we're excited about that.
Very cool.
Maybe
That
me
is
too.
exciting.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Great show for Michigan show. We can get on together again, Guy.
That would be so awesome. That would be so awesome.
Toledo,
and yeah. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say Toledo's the new Red Rocks. Toledo's the new Beacon. I didn't have anything of value to add to the conversation, but what were you gonna say?
Oh, I'd love to be in Red Rocks. That's another one of those places that are high on my list to one day see a show at, for sure. And for me, nothing else to add, just to send. Oh, sorry, Mary.
That might be my next big vacation, is going to Red Rocks so I can see them.
Yeah, that one's definitely on my bucket list too.
Colorado, because we want to go to Colorado, but really we got something else in plan.
Yeah.
And then, guys, a bullshit offer, man. If you really want to come out, I mean, it's expensive to fly out there, but we'll save you a hotel room, we'll save you food spills, we'll do everything but get you your ticket.
Hey, I just need to figure out if I can make it in that time with work and all that. But yeah, you don't need to convince me. I'm sold, man. And I absolutely appreciate it. And I realize that's real, and I might absolutely take you up on it. And yeah, that would be amazing.
The TTB family, man.
I suppose if this podcast can save people money on lodging and whatever the case may be, that's helpful. I'm doing my part. I'm getting more people, helping to get more people to shows by giving them discounts on lodging. But thank you again, guys. I'll let you guys get on with the rest of your day, morning. Still morning.
Have a great day.
Hey, safe travels, everyone.
Oh, you got it. Take care, guys.
Have a safe trip back. Have a wonderful trip back, and sending my love to all of the Tedeschi Trucks Band family everywhere in the world.
That is very kind, sir. You got it. Take care, guys.
All right. Bye now.
Later. So there you go. Episode 150. Recapping Tedeschi Trucks Band's second show, final show of their Australia run in Sydney at the State Theatre. Thank you to Guy. Thank you to Chris and Mary. That was super fun to connect with them, and thank you again for coming on, Guy. I appreciate the photos as well. Talented amateur photographer for sure. Please check out at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. Subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. I'll be putting out an audio version of this episode as well on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those platforms. It'll pop up on. Get that up maybe today, tomorrow. We'll work on that. At Adam Choid on Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me. Tedeschi Trucks Podcast.com for everything related to the show. AdamChoid.com for my personal stuff. Tedeschi Trucks Band.com is their official website. Definitely buy tickets to shows, buy merch, join the Swamp family. Fan club, download the app, get on the boards. Lots of good stuff on there. More shows coming this summer, spring, summer. Band has a little bit of time off, but they'll be hitting the road again soon. Thank you, TTB. Thank you to the band, of course, the crew, fans, supporters of the podcast, listeners, guests. I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate everyone listening, watching again. And let's talk soon. Peace.